and then the vehicle was spotted on the 5 freeway near Lake Forest.
The lawyer went to where O.J. was, which was in the San Fernando Valley, at a friend's house named Robert Kardashian.
Excuse me, Carter, but right there is an indication of how unusually the police were, what an unusual way police were handling this case. O.J. Simpson was allowed, the police were ready to charge him. Instead of sending police out with a squad car, handcuffs, and bring him in, they allowed this extraordinary situation of him to be taken to a friend's house and spend hours there.
That's right. The lawyer, Shapiro, said, in fact, that he gave the police the address of where he was, gave the location, and promised that he would bring him in at 11 a.m. But, in fact, the police didn't immediately go there. They waited for the lawyer to signal the time that he should bring him in.
Connie, for just a second, let's see if we can pick up a little of the live coverage from our Los Angeles station just to get a flavor of what's going on here, and then we'll resume our commentary from New York.
Yeah, we're about 1.5 miles, 2 miles behind all of the activity that Bob has been reporting on that he is flying over. Traffic is slowing down quite a bit because I believe that we're running into the tail end of that traffic break of the officers trying to keep motorists away from the procession up ahead. We can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 choppers in the air from our vantage point. Occasionally we can see people driving on the freeway here pointing and obviously looking, many of them not quite what's going on. We do not have the vehicles in our sight, but we can certainly see a lot of the activity and traffic slowing down, wondering what is going on up ahead.
Mary, Jim Hill is with us here now. There is a good chance that O.J. might be listening to us right now on KNX News Radio. And if so, Jim, I know you have a message for him, a personal message.
O.J., Al, if you're listening to me, if you can hear me, guys, please stop. If you can hear me, just turn on your emergency blinkers and just pull over to the side. I can't begin to tell you, O.J. and Al, how many people have called this station praying for you and wanting your safety. There are a lot of people who believe that if you two keep up with what you're doing right now, that the worst is going to happen. You do not want to be remembered as someone who ran from a bad situation. You've always
the person you're listening to is Jim Hill. He's the KCBS sportscaster.
No matter what it is.
When I was anchoring the news in Los Angeles, he was doing the sports there at that time. Excuse me.
Pull over to the side, and if you can hear my voice,
he's old friends.
Please surrender, guys. It's not going to do you any good to keep running. The more you run, the worse it's going to get. You never can solve any problems by running away from it. I've had 15 or 20 people calling here, young kids crying on the phone, telling O.J., please come in, please come back. People still love you, O.J., and they don't want to remember you going this way. They want to remember you as an individual who stood up for what you thought, who faced the consequences no matter what, and they do not want to see this happen. So please, guys, turn on your emergency blinkers, slow down, pull over to the side, and please surrender.
Just to jump in here, Jim, KNX is simulcasting our coverage, and we're just hoping that perhaps O.J. and Al Cowlings, perhaps, if he is the driver of this car, might have KNX on and be listening. And
we're also being joined by CBS Network, being carried nationwide. This picture being seen in living rooms and homes across the country right now. And just to recap, police tracked down this white Ford Bronco, and they moved in. They've had a conversation with O.J. Simpson, at which time he demanded that he be allowed to go to his mother's home, which is right not too far, we're told, from where he is right now. He is in the back seat with a gun pointed to his head. He is threatening suicide unless police go along with this. At this point, police have shown no inclination whatsoever to pull him over, to stop him. They're letting this drama play out as it happens.
Jim Hill, we have understood that for much of this week, O.J. Simpson has been very depressed, and his attorney told us today he was under sedation for the last couple of days.
Yes, he was, and from the people that I had talked to that had been close to him throughout the course of the week, said that when they started talking to him, he just started crying. He would start one sentence and then just start to cry, as if to tell them or to indicate to them that he knew that maybe the worst was about to come or whatever. But, you know, there are still a lot of people, no matter how bad a situation is, there are still a lot of people who have a great deal of respect for O.J. Simpson, and they want to remember him in a positive way. And people still call and say, Jim, if you can talk to him, if you can tell him, please tell him that you are innocent until proven guilty. And that's the message that everyone wants to get with him. And we know that right now that O.J. is a man that is confused. He's a man that doesn't know exactly what's going on in his life. And it's amazing how when you get into a lot of trouble, even when you get to be an adult, the one person that you think of, the one person that you look to console you is your mother, and you always think about that. So we just hope that I just hope that O.J., that if you're listening to me, man, please, you've given so many of us great advice about what to do, what not to do, where to go, how to conduct ourselves as gentlemen, how to conduct ourselves as role models, how you know that young people look up to us, and how we can have a tremendous impact on the young people, not only in our community, but also in our entire country. This is not the kind of impact, and this is not the kind of influence, O.J., that you want any of us to exhibit to any of our young people.
Well, what if he were to say to you, as he said in his letter, Jim, that he just can't take it anymore, that his life is destroyed around him and that it'll never be the same and he can't face it?
O.J.'s given people advice before about facing facts, about facing reality. And this, without a doubt, is his biggest challenge ever. He's going to have to face it. You're going to have to try. He's going to have to try and get some help here. No one can say they know how he feels. No one can say that they're in his shoes and they've been there before. Obviously, no one has. But O.J., the thing to do, and Al, if you're there, is just think. Just stop. Just stop and think. Because the ultimate is not worth going through all of this. You do not want to pay the ultimate price in this kind of situation. And I know there are question marks in his mind, and especially if he is under the influence of anything, or if they've been, who knows at this particular time. But O.J., buddy, there's still a lot of guys that still have a lot of respect for you. There's still a lot of guys that love you. You've helped a lot of people. You've helped a lot of people in their own individual careers. And people are praying that this comes to an immediate halt right now, so that there is no further damage done, so that no one else is hurt anymore. There's been enough damage, there's been enough bloodshed, there's been enough tears, there's been enough heartaches. This needs to stop right now. So O.J., if you can hear me, Al, if you can hear me, whoever's in that truck, if you can hear us, please, gentlemen, please just pull over and stop, and let's just quietly bring this thing to an end, because it's not going to get any better the longer you keep doing this.
What's happening here is that this commentary from KCBS television is being carried simultaneously by KNXT, an all-news radio station, and the hope is that it's being heard inside that Ford Bronco. That Ford Bronco, the white car, is believed to be carrying O.J. Simpson, being trailed by more than a dozen patrol cars now along an Orange County freeway. At one point, it was fairly near Disneyland. The Bronco is traveling at about 40 miles an hour. Authorities are making no effort to pull it over, and haven't since our CBS News live coverage, which when we began it was exclusive coverage, began. The word is, the belief is that O.J. Simpson wants to go to his mother's house, and the police, in fact, the word demand was used. It is unusual for a man charged in a double murder case to be able to demand anything of police, but the extraordinary circumstance here is the belief that O.J. Simpson could be on the verge of suicide, may have the capacity, that it was just to say a weapon to do it in the car, so police continue just to hold back now that they have found him. They found him through cellular telephones. They talked to the man they believed, O.J. Simpson, in this car by phone at one point, and that's where the situation is at this moment.
O.J. Simpson, before he left the home, that police were going to arrest him in this home in the San Fernando Valley. Before he left the home with his friend Al Cowlings, he had written 3 letters, one to the public, one to his children, and one to his mother. He did want to call his mother as well, and apparently he wants to see her now.
Just one small point, Connie. That home in the San Fernando Valley was not, in fact, his home,
His
as
home.
we know.
That's correct.
It was
It's
the
a
home of a
friend's
friend. Unusual circumstance. The police, when we say allowed him to go, he wound up in that home, and from there, he apparently simply just walked out, got in his car, and drove away.
That's right. He and his friend Al Cowlings were downstairs, while his lawyers and his doctors were upstairs. And when they went down to find him so that police could arrest him, he was gone, and his friend Al Cowlings was gone.
But I didn't see O.J. in the vehicle, and I had a real clear look at it, too.
Here's an eyewitness saying he saw both Cowlings and O.J. Simpson in that car, an eyewitness confirmation.
And ironically, or strangely, a lot of people obviously listening to KNX, and they're pulling over off to the side. They know that he's coming, and that's the best information I can give you, but we're about half a mile behind the convoy, and we're going to stay right on it and let you know what happens.
Those windows are not tinted in any way, are they?
They may be tinted, but you can see in there. I mean, you can see very clearly, and I saw Al Cowlings. I didn't say O.J. I think he might be slumped down. I don't know why, but that was the situation I saw, and I got a very good look at that.
Well, it's possible, I suppose, that he could be slumped down. There was our helicopter that was right down at tree level just a short time ago, and if he's trying not to be seen,
Exactly.
who knows? But we're looking at this car continues 91 freeway westbound, and
We're mixing here now CBS News
for,
coverage with the coverage of our owned and operated station KCBS in Los Angeles as the police continue to follow the car, in which has now been confirmed by an eyewitness. The reporter said that he saw Cowlings driving, saw what he thought was clearly O.J. Simpson in the automobile. The police belief is that O.J. Simpson may be headed toward his mother's home. As we watch this extraordinary bit of coverage unfold not too far from Disneyland, let me point out that earlier this evening a longtime friend of Simpson's, Robert Kardashian, went on television with Simpson's lawyer. Kardashian read a letter to the public from Simpson. It began with, quote, "to whom it may concern," and it was described as suicidal.
I know you have a job to do, but as a last wish, please, 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 leave my children in peace. Their lives will be tough enough. I want to send my love and thanks to all my friends. I'm sorry I can't name every one of you, especially AC. Man, thanks for being in my life. The support and friendship I received from so many: Wayne Hughes, Louis Mark, Frank Olson, Mark Packer, Bender, Bobby Kardashian. I wish we had spent more time together in recent years. My golfing buddies, Haas, Alan Austin, Mike, Craig, Bender, Weiler, Sandy, Jay, Johnny, thanks for the fun. All my teammates over the years. Reggie, you were the soul of my pro career. Ahmad, I never stopped being proud of you. Marcus, you got a great lady in Catherine. Don't mess it up. Bobby Chandler, thanks for always being there. Skip and Kathy, I love you guys. Without you, I never would have made it through this far. Marguerite, thanks for the early years. We had some fun. Paula, what can I say? You are special. I'm sorry we're not going to have our chance.
That was audio tape taken from live coverage early this evening of Robert Kardashian, a friend of O.J. Simpson, reading a letter which was said to have been from Simpson. It's been such a confusing day. You may want us to recap very quickly as we watch this Ford Bronco believed to be carrying O.J. Simpson, followed by the police. O.J. Simpson possibly headed for his mother's house. Quickly, Simpson's former teammate and lifelong friend Al Cowlings is believed to be driving this Bronco. It's almost a virtual certainty now because we've had eyewitness confirmation of it, that the events of today unfolded this way. Simpson and Al Collins went to the house in the San Fernando Valley owned by the friend Robert Kardashian. Simpson's, that's not a police car, by the way, next to the white Bronco, so insofar as we know. That's just a pickup truck driving along the freeway with the police cars behind. That's believed to be the situation. At any rate, extraordinary circumstance, Simpson wound up in this house with his friends Cowlings, and it was said by the attorney Shapiro that everybody went upstairs, leaving Simpson and Cowlings alone downstairs, and according to Simpson's attorney, with nobody knowing that it was going to happen, nobody having intention it was going to happen, O.J. Simpson and Cowlings just left the house. If you're saying, well, why weren't the police watching the house? Why hadn't they been tailing O.J. Simpson? There are no really clear answers about that. And then, for a long time, the police didn't know where O.J. Simpson was. There was talk of a possible suicide because of the tenor of the note, I think, Connie. Then, suddenly, tonight, there were these first reports carried on CBS News that cellular telephone contact had been made with O.J. Simpson. Then questions, well, is it real? Answer, yes, it appears to be real. The next thing, we have this live helicopter coverage of the Ford Bronco being followed by the police, which CBS News had exclusive for a long while, and to my knowledge may still have. Now, as part of this, one can only call it unique drama, the television helicopter carrying the camera, which is showing you this police containment on the freeway of O.J. Simpson, containment up to a degree. The helicopter has about 15 to 18 minutes worth of fuel left. How far it is to O.J. Simpson's mother's house, if indeed that is where he is headed, we do not know. On the freeway, you do see other cars. Some of those cars may know about what's happening as they view it because radio is carrying so much of this. Others in cars may not even know what is happening.
Yeah, I don't think they do. Either the one that's right next to the Ford Bronco obviously is just riding along. It's difficult for the police to be able to cut off each ramp, and it appears as if here they are approaching a different ramp.
They're near the harbor, I think, now, and there's been no indication the police even wanted to cut off any ramp. We just touched on this earlier, believing that perhaps the best thing for the moment is to keep him in sight and just allow the thing to develop. And
his attorney, O.J.'s attorney, had said that he had never had any concern that O.J. Simpson would run. It is extraordinary, though, that the attorney left O.J. Simpson alone with his friend Al Cowling. His attorney said that the last time he saw him downstairs in that home in the San Fernando Valley, O.J. was wailing. He was extremely depressed.
Connie, the question that's going to be discussed in coming days is who ordered it and why was the situation allowed to develop in which on Monday, O.J. Simpson was handcuffed and he was in police custody. Then somebody said, take the handcuffs off. They questioned him and let him go. And we are now told did not put surveillance on O.J. Simpson. Those are among the questions that the Los Angeles District Attorney's office and the police, of course, are going to have to answer later on. Right now, the question is, where does this Bronco go and what do the police do as they watch it go?
Well, when the District Attorney Gil Garcetti was holding the news conference, a reporter said, why didn't the police follow him and put him under surveillance? And he said that the lawyers for O.J. Simpson would have been upset because he wasn't arrested, he wasn't charged, he was not named as a prime suspect. Well, good heavens, there would be some who would say that, granted, the lawyers may become upset, but might it be the police obligation?
Well, as I understand it, Connie, it's not unusual in the cases, for example, if someone has passed a bad check to say to the attorney, well, just bring him on down and we'll book him down here. But in murder cases, a lot of extraordinary things happened with this case. But fair to say, on behalf of the District Attorney's Office and the police, that one of the things they knew they had to do in a case involving a high-profile person such as O.J. Simpson is make sure that their investigation and subsequent arrest, if there was to be one, and charges and arraignment, had every T crossed and every I dotted so as not to foul the case before it reached the grand jury indictment and indeed trial stage. We haven't noted, at least not in a while, that the authorities today, in formally charging O.J. Simpson, made it clear they were charging him in such a way is that if convicted, while noting that O.J. Simpson has not been convicted of anything at the moment, if convicted, he would possibly face the death penalty. There was a
special circumstances.
Yes, special circumstances, without going into the details of explaining what that means. It's a legal term which left them the possibility of asking for the death penalty if indeed they eventually got an indictment and if they convicted him. Now, there were some reports, Connie, over the last few days that suggested that Simpson and his late former wife were attempting to reconcile their marriage at the time of the slings. They were divorced. They had recently been seen together. But the Associated Press, in a possibly important development this afternoon, the Associated Press quotes a family friend as saying that the attempts at reconciliation clearly had failed some weeks ago, and according to this family friend quoted by the Associated Press, Simpson had turned vengeful. Now, the Associated Press quotes this friend, speaking on condition of anonymity, as saying, and I quote now, that Simpson had been telling his former wife's girlfriends and her that if he ever caught her with anyone, he would kill her, unquote, from the Associated Press report.
And I want to bring in John Blackstone for a minute here. John, I believe you were watching the news conference in which this letter that O.J. Simpson addressed to the public, he said in the letter, "I've loved her," meaning his ex-wife, Nicole Simpson. "I've always loved her." And he explained that they were splitting up for a second time, and he said in the future we would be close friends and more. I believe the chopper is now having some problems. John Blackstone, can you tell us a little more about the that particular aspect of the letter? As I recall, he had said that he and his ex-wife had a great relationship, although they had their ups and downs.
Excuse me, Connie and John, but the Ford Bronco stopped there for just a moment. Why it stopped, nobody knows, but now seems to have resumed. Now, our own chopper video for the moment has been lost for what reason we don't know.
Dan, right up there, it's just the Ford Bronco is continuing to move, but we're having some problems with the CBS helicopter. I think you had mentioned just a moment ago that the helicopter was running out of fuel. So obviously we'll try and pick that up just a little bit later. Anyway, John Blackstone, O.J. Simpson had mentioned that incident in which he was taken in for battery of his ex-wife when they were still together in an earlier time. Can you fill us in a little more about that?
Yes, in the letter about that incident, this was 1989 when police were called, a 911 call to the residence that we've become familiar with, everybody's been camped out in front of, a 911 call there to trouble in the family. And O.J. Simpson said at that time he pleaded no contest to beating his wife because he said it was a thing to do, it was a thing he was supposed to do. To keep the public out of his life, to keep some privacy. He said he took that rap, basically, but suggested that it was a family matter that others shouldn't have been involved in. He said that they had tried to reconcile over past months, but in fact had recently, in this letter this afternoon, said recently had reached the decision that they were not going to get back together again, that their relationship was finished.
All right, yes, and he also said, "Don't feel sorry for me, I've had a great life." O.J. Simpson's lawyer held an extraordinary news conference today. It was on national television. Robert Shapiro said Simpson had fled today as arrangements were being made for him to surrender to police. As we join some live coverage of this Ford Bronco being tailed by police, let's listen to Shapiro as he made a dramatic plea for Simpson to turn himself in.
I know you can't hear from your altitude, but
for the sake of your family, for the sake of your children, please surrender immediately. Surrender to any law enforcement official at any police station, but please do it immediately. I now want to take a moment to bring you up to date on the events of today. Tuesday, I met with the members of the Los Angeles Police Department, Robbery Homicide Division. We met for about an hour. At that meeting, I gave the detectives my promise that I would make available O.J. Simpson for the purpose of interview or surrender in the event they were going to file criminal charges. I gave them all of my numbers to be reached in that event. This morning, at 8:30 a.m., I received a call at my home asking me to bring O.J. Simpson in for the purpose of surrendering on a murder charge to Parker Center. I agreed to have him there by 11 o'clock, although I told them it would be very pressing for me because I had to get his doctors to notify him, to perhaps to be there because of his very, very frail, fragile, and emotional state.
That was Robert Shapiro, O.J. Simpson's attorney, describing the extraordinary events that occurred over this day in which he was trying to arrange the surrender of O.J. Simpson, but suddenly realized that O.J. Simpson and his friend Al Cowlings were not in the house where he was, and in fact they had left.
Connie, the police trailing this Bronco, the number of police cars has increased considerably. At one point it was 9, then 11, then a dozen. As we saw just a moment ago, a shot. It's well over a dozen police cars now trailing this Ford Bronco in which O.J. Simpson is almost certainly riding. We say almost certainly because the police believe it. They say they've spoken to O.J. at one time on a cellular phone, and then Al Cowlings is driving the vehicle. The first word today that O.J. Simpson was a fugitive came from the Los Angeles Police Department. The first word that he was a fugitive, that they had no idea where he was. This was before they made contact, as you now see as part of our live coverage. The Los Angeles Police Commander, David Gaskin, said Simpson had broken an agreement to turn himself in.
This morning, detectives from the Los Angeles Police Department, after an exhaustive investigation, which included interviews of dozens of witnesses, a thorough examination and analysis of the physical evidence, both here and in Chicago, sought and obtained a warrant for the arrest of O.J. Simpson, charging him with the murders of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Lyle Goldman. Mr. Simpson, in agreement with his attorney, was scheduled to surrender this morning to the Los Angeles Police Department. Initially, that was 11 o'clock. It then became 11:45. Mr. Simpson has not appeared. The Los Angeles Police Department right now is actively searching for Mr. Simpson. The Los Angeles Police Department is also very unhappy with the activities surrounding his failure to surrender. And we will be looking further into those activities, including anyone that may have intervened on his behalf.
Commander David Gaskin of the Los Angeles Police Department. This is our CBS News live coverage of police pursuit of O.J. Simpson, who is in the white car at the right extreme of your screen. And let's pick up some of the, I believe this is transmission from the helicopter who's flying just above this.
Again, the pursuit continues up the 405 freeway. We mentioned earlier it started, we are aware of it, that it started on the I-5 just south of Santa Ana. It continued up the I-5. A few minutes later, they transitioned onto the westbound 91 freeway. They took the 91 all the way to the 110 freeway, and then went south on the 110, the Harbor Freeway, for just a few miles there, and then picked up the 405 freeway. On the 405 freeway, and that's where they are now, approaching LAX. Should be right at International Airport now. There
have been a lot of strange scenes on Los Angeles freeways over the years. but nothing quite to match this one. The police, obviously, for the moment, don't know exactly what to do, so they are playing it cautiously. Give the police department credit. They said this afternoon when they said O.J. Simpson was a fugitive, they said, we are searching for him and we will find him. And they have found him. They now have him in plain sight, in view, and they have had for many minutes here now. Whether O.J. Simpson is having his friend drive him to his mother's house has not been confirmed, but is one of the possibilities that has been raised.
It's 7:30 p.m. Out there in Los Angeles, and so it's just past the rush hour time, and yet you can see that the freeways are still filled.
We just lost our picture there of what's happened. And we know how confusing this live coverage is, that the KCBS helicopter was the first to find the Ford Bronco. It flew for a long time, gave us the pictures, then had to refuel. This is so those of you in the audience will understand what had happened. It went back to refuel. We picked up other coverage, and then they went away back to their studio, so that's the reason we flipped away for the moment. But obviously what's happening is the scene is continuing to unfold, and we'll bring you a live picture from the freeway in a moment itself. Kind of let's bring in John Blackstone at our studio in Los Angeles. John, what are you seeing and hearing and knowing there of special interest at this hour?
Well, Dan, obviously, I think everyone's stomach in Los Angeles is tight right now. I mean, for a week here, since Monday, this has been a dramatic story that has gripped this city. What would happen? Would O.J. Simpson be arrested? Today, it was, even with the preparation we had here today, even with these leaks of some of the evidence found by police, I think people were still shocked this morning when it was announced that O.J. Simpson would be arrested, charged with a double murder, that these were charges that could carry the death penalty. The murder weapon was identified as a knife, although that weapon hasn't been found yet. All very shocking things to believe might possibly have been done by a hero such as O.J. Simpson. Since that was announced this morning, the city was gripped. Then, as we waited for news conferences that were to be held, an arraignment that was to be held, these were delayed and delayed, everyone wondering what had happened. And then finally the announcement that the police, the district attorney, didn't know where O.J. Simpson was. One of the particularly memorable moments of that was when District Attorney Gil Garcetti was speaking to the press, and he said that even he felt terrible to think that O.J. Simpson, who he'd admired for so long, could possibly be involved in this, but everybody had to remember that now he was a fugitive facing a double murder charge. And all of that drama, and then suddenly late this afternoon to hear this. We've seen these sort of pursuits on the Los Angeles freeways in the past, but as you said, Dan, never anything like this, and certainly never anything as dramatic as this.
John, has anybody, first of all, we should explain where the Los Angeles police chief is. We were in the hands of the commander this afternoon, and there was a reason for that.
Yes, the Los Angeles police chief has been in Philadelphia, where he previously was police chief testifying in a case. He is coming back to Los Angeles, we believe, due back today. We're back with the picture of this Ford Bronco again now on the freeway, still traveling. He was approaching, last time I was able to tell, he was approaching Los Angeles International Airport, getting very close to the city.
John, there was a report carried by another network today indicating, well, flatly saying, that the police believe that an accomplice may have been at or near the murder scene. It's unclear to me how that was left after the news conference today. Have the police flatly denied that?
That's the last I heard, was that the police did flatly deny that they were looking for any other accomplice. Again, the murder weapon has not been found. They did identify the murder weapon as a knife, but that weapon has not been found.
I think it may be worth mentioning again that as of this moment, O.J. Simpson has not been convicted of anything. He stands, or at this hour, he rides as an accused citizen. He has been formally charged with 2 murders, that of his former wife and her male companion, who were stabbed to death near a Ferrari automobile, which allegedly, supposedly, and reportedly O.J. Simpson had paid for. Bystanders along the highways and the freeways are waving. We can't see this because of the high helicopter shot, But the Associated Press reports that bystanders are waving to the Ford Bronco carrying O.J. Simpson and driven by his friend as it goes along the freeways. Of course, word has spread of this. It's been on long enough, both on television and radio, and as we've mentioned several times, the police hope is that O.J. Simpson may be listening to radio reports in the car, and that's one reason they had the impassioned plea from the KCBS sportscaster Hill earlier, and there have been other pleas saying to O.J. Simpson, think about your children, think about the family, think about all the people who believe in you. And Connie, those who knew O.J. Simpson best would never have believed that he would be, if anything, he would not be a coward, that he wouldn't run.
Well, and I don't know that necessarily we can perceive it as a cowardly act. It may be very well a man who is so desperate at this point, confused, so depressed, and suicidal as described by his lawyer through his doctors.
Excuse me for one moment, but Bob Kerr, the reporter you know so well and have worked with, has some narration from the description, eyewitness description. The helicopter has picked that up.
They thought that O.J. was going to visit the grave of Nicole Simpson, so sheriff's deputies from Orange County staked out the cemetery, and indeed, Mr. Simpson was within a mile of the cemetery where his ex-wife plot is, and they were able to finally locate the vehicle after a cellular phone call was made at about 5:51, we believe. At that point, they were able to home in on the vehicle and found it on the North 5. They immediately called in more backup units and were able to shut down most of the freeway behind Mr. Simpson's vehicle. And because of the slow speeds, the traffic ahead of the vehicle was able to clear out. However, with the transmissions on radio and on television, literally thousands of people now are pulling over on the side of the freeway to take a look at this, to show support, to wave at Mr. Simpson. We're now crossing over Venice Boulevard, 405 freeway, northbound. And as we look down there, I'm going to use a pair of binoculars and try to determine whether or not I can see Mr. Simpson at this point. At one point, law enforcement officers allowed us to drop down to about 40 feet, and we were able to use our camera and look inside. We're simulcasting this on KNX radio and on Channel 2 and showing some live pictures. I'm looking inside the white Bronco through my binoculars, and it appears as though Mr. Simpson's still in the back seat with his very close friend AC at the wheel. Speeds now appear to be about 40 to 45 miles an hour. 18 highway patrol units behind. And as the sun is setting here in West Los Angeles, it may become a little easier to see inside.
I think he's aware of a lot, since actually Jim Hill...
This is extraordinary.
Ground level shot there, and you can hear people cheering from the sideline.
It's very bizarre. A bizarre set of circumstances here. People lined up on the side.
Depression, obviously, and also has said that he'll take his own life, and has also used the gun to hold the gun against his head, and has threatened his own life, and officers do not want to see that. If you are listening to this broadcast, O.J., there's a lot of people that look up to you and are pulling for you and want you to pull over and give yourself up. And we've seen that today with literally thousands of people now having pulled over on the side of the freeways. We're now coming up 405 freeway northbound, coming up on the Santa Monica freeway. Given the position of the white Bronco, it would appear that the Bronco will continue north on the 405 freeway and not turn off on the Santa Monica freeway either west or eastbound. Traffic,
this is Dan Rather with Connie Chung in Los Angeles and CBS News correspondent John Blackstone in Los Angeles. And what you are watching, in case you have just joined us, is live coverage. We've been on quite a few minutes now of the police following O.J. Simpson in the back of the white Ford Bronco, driven by his friend and former teammate, with police simply following along not wanting to make a move for fear that O.J. Simpson may be armed and capable of taking his own life. There was a lot of talk during the day of possible suicide attempt. This is the police first contact with O.J. Simpson since his late wife's funeral yesterday. Simpson now formally charged with a double murder, a fugitive from justice, on the run. Some belief that he may be trying to get to his mother's home. That has not been confirmed, but there's a widespread belief in the Los Angeles police ranks that perhaps that's where he wants to go. Now, our coverage is interspersed. Connie Chung and I here, John Blackstone in Los Angeles, with Bob Turr and others from our station KCBS in Los Angeles, which is simulcasting on CBS All News Radio, KNX in Los Angeles.
It is believed that the person who is driving the car is his friend Al Cowlings, a former football player. And if indeed all of this is true, the Los Angeles District Attorney Gil Garcetti had said earlier in a very stern warning that anyone who assists O.J. Simpson in his effort to run as a fugitive of justice would be considered a felon. Any assistance is considered a felony. The district attorney was very clear on that. He said he was upset and angry at the situation that O.J. Simpson was not arrested as planned. He had planned to surrender to police, according to his lawyer. But in fact, when his lawyer met with him, O.J. Simpson was downstairs in a house in the San Fernando Valley with his friend Al Cowlings, and when the police came to arrest him, he was gone.
Connie, we've said too many things that were critical of the police, that is, quoting other people, raising questions of other police around the country. But perhaps it needs to be noted that this was no small feat in finding O.J. Simpson being driven around in this car. It's a reminder also that when one uses cellular telephones, a lot of things can happen. O.J. and/or the Cowlings used the cellular telephone, and police traced that cellular telephone to this Bronco and then made contact in that way. But a good piece of police work to reestablish contact with O.J. Simpson after he had disappeared.
After being criticized, I'm sure, by many earlier, that the police had not kept O.J. Simpson under surveillance. It was last Sunday that the bodies were discovered of Nicole Simpson and her friend Ronald Goldman. That was a day that had started rather normally in many ways. At 6 o'clock that Sunday, O.J. Simpson and his ex-wife had attended a dance recital for their daughter in West Los Angeles, and then they went to a restaurant with 9 people, 10 people in total, to have dinner. Nicole Simpson went home, had apparently left her glasses at the restaurant, and one of the waiters there, Ronald Goldman, said that he would bring it over to her home. It was at that evening, that Sunday evening, that Nicole Simpson and Goldman were found dead. And it was that evening that O.J. Simpson flew from Los Angeles to Chicago. The bodies were found after midnight. Simpson checked in at about 4:15 a.m. the next morning, Monday morning, in Chicago, and flew back when he learned of these deaths, the deaths of his ex-wife.
Connie, we have reported this earlier, but because we are aware so many people have joined our coverage in progress, we want to repeat for emphasis that Carl Williams, who's monitoring police scanners for KCBS television and CBS News, having broken this story and had the first pictures of this extraordinary scene on the freeways, Williams says that O.J. Simpson, and I quote now, demanded that he would not give himself up. Williams, monitoring police scanners, said that Simpson is in the back of the vehicle, and quote, he has a gun to his head, and he will hurt himself, that he's been demanding that he be taken to his mother. Now, that's an unquote from one who's been monitoring the police scanners. The situation up and above the freeways is such that from time to time we may lose our picture from the helicopter, then we pick it up. Most, if not all, have this difficulty. We expect to resume the picture in a moment. Connie, we've been in what might be best described as a rolling kind of hole pattern, not the best way to describe it, for quite some time. Let's hold on a second here. Seeing on the monitor there's a wreck on the freeway. They just cruise right on past that wreck on the highway, still following the Ford Bronco.
And they're going
now they're
very
off the freeway
slowly.
onto a street.
Yeah, and they're moving slowly. Let's pick up
near the Bel Air Hotel.
here.
This is Sunset Boulevard near the Bel Air Hotel. Let's pick up some of the commentary from the helicopter now.
We're back with you. KNX News Radio, 1070 on your radio dial. We are following the pursuit of Mr. O.J. Simpson from Orange County back to Brentwood, the home of Mr. Simpson. We are now coming up on Barrington, westbound Santa Monica westbound Sunset Boulevard at Barrington. Continuing number 1 lane, about 35 miles an hour, heading toward the ocean. Now this will take Mr. Simpson back to his home on Rockingham if he so chooses. Also, it could lead to the murder scene on Bundy, the 800 block of Bundy, where Nicole Simpson and her friend, Mr. Goldman, were killed late Sunday night. We're now westbound Sunset Boulevard, coming up on St. Martin of Tours, where that's where the service was held for Nicole Simpson. We've passed that, now coming up on Bundy. And as we're traveling, people are listening to KNX and have pulled over on the side of the road and are trying to get a glimpse at what can only be described as an amazing sight. Football hero, celebrity O.J. Simpson driving down Sunset Boulevard westbound, coming up into Brentwood. We are watching this as it's unfolding, reporting live. He is now crossed over into Brentwood, past the fire station, past Carmelita, westbound on Sunset, and shortly we're going to be coming up on Rockingham, and that is Mr. Simpson's home street. I don't know if he's returning back to his home. I'm not sure at this point. We're monitoring the situation. He is now making a turn on Bristol Court. Bristol Court is the back way into Rockingham. Back way into Rockingham. We've just passed Mayor Reardon's residence. We have just passed Mayor Reardon's residence. We are north on Bristol Court, a Los Angeles Police Air Unit, now involved in the pursuit. It appears as though we are following Mr. Simpson back to his home. He lives at Ashford and Rockingham, a quarter mile from where I live, here in Brentwood. Can we drop? Okay, we can go down. Making a left turn on Ashford. Left turn in Ashford. He's going to run into a bunch of news crews standing by at his home. There are Los Angeles police units standing by there as well. This is insane. I've never seen anything like this. Mr. Simpson, O.J., please. He's now pulling into his residence.
Simpson has just pulled up. The Simpson followed by a huge convoy of police officers.
This is live coverage from O.J. Simpson's home. He's...
Oh.
O.J. Simpson arrested.
Yeah.
What apparently just happened, O.J. Simpson got out of the car. Certainly
he
someone
shook his
did.
left hand at something.
The police moved in and hustled that person inside the house. There's no way to be absolutely positive that was O.J. Simpson, but it certainly looked for all the world like him.
And the police grabbed him, one on each arm. We have not seen his friend Al Cowlings, who reportedly was driving that Ford Bronco. Presumably he is still in that car. I can see something moving inside the Bronco.
So it could have been Cowlings who was taken inside the house. Could have been. Let's just pick up the natural sound and let it play for a moment to see what happens. This is live coverage.
All right.
Police believe someone is still in the Ford Bronco just in front of this police car. Someone was taken out of the Bronco and hustled inside the house. Nobody knows whether that was O.J. Simpson or his friend Cowlings, who'd been driving the car.
Began at the burial site, near the burial site of Nicole Simpson. Has ended here where it all began, on Rockingham. In 1991, there were reports from officers that O.J. had been involved in beatings with his wife. In 92, yes? Go ahead, Andrew. Yes. Yes. No. It's a standoff. It's a standoff, and what we're seeing here.
The belief now runs strong that the police believe O.J. Simpson is still in the car, and that it was his friend Cowlings who was taking the man in the white T-shirt and hustled back into the house.
It would seem so.
We do not know any of these things. We're working on simply looking at what you have been looking at. Let's hold on here. A dramatic moment understates it, if indeed O.J. Simpson is in the back of that Ford Bronco.
And they are positioned around the home, weapons drawn, and they are asking, pleading with Mr. Simpson to come out of the vehicle, also pleading with his friend to come out of the vehicle as well. And so far, both doors remain closed, and they're having a great deal of difficulty seeing inside the vehicle themselves because there's tinted windows in this Bronco.
Well, then there is some confusion.
Mr. Simpson's
Our earlier
flashers are still
reports
on.
suggested that there were only two people in that Ford Bronco, O.J. Simpson and his friend Al Cowlings. We saw one person standing by the Ford Bronco, taken into the house immediately, police on each arm. It was difficult for us to see, as it was difficult for you to see, whether or not that was O.J. Simpson, Al Cowlings, or perhaps someone else.
The police, apparently working on the belief that O.J. Simpson may still be in the car, in that white Bronco, have all kinds of tough decisions to make. Do they move on it? Do they wait it out? Can they get to it from the top, from the side? What looked to be the arrest of O.J. Simpson earlier apparently was not. And a confusing scene happened in the driveway. It'll be a while before it will be revealed what that was all about.
It will be difficult to sort out until we have more information. Now, this police chase, if you will, although it was a very slow chase, the Ford Bronco was going about 45 miles an hour, has been going on for at least an hour and a half. 9:30 Eastern Time, 6:30 Los Angeles time. And O.J. Simpson had been in that Ford Bronco, at one point reportedly wanting to go to his mother's house, demanding to go to his mother's house, and at one point reportedly holding a gun to his head. As he drove, or as Al Cowlings, his friend, reportedly drove him, with him in the back, there were cheers, these extraordinary cheers from people who were on the side of the highway.
Connie, I think we should mention at this point that there is a possibility, some might say a probability, that both Cowlings and Simpson are still inside the car, and that what appeared to be a person in a white T-shirt who had the rough build of O.J. Simpson outside the vehicle earlier may have indeed been a third party, question mark, from the house,
yes,
or from inside the car itself. So the best probability at the moment is O.J. Simpson still inside the Ford Bronco, possibly still with Cowlings, and that third person that police hustled inside the house, at this moment unknown who he is.
I have one question here. I have an IFB in my ear that's independent, so I can use this phone to call CBS?
it's a standoff.
This is the extraordinary and dramatic culmination of an extraordinary and dramatic day. Events which could never have been contemplated. It was the first bit of news today was that O.J. Simpson was charged with 2 counts of murder, one of his ex-wife Nicole Simpson and her 25-year-old friend Ronald Goldman. Then the police announced that O.J. Simpson had disappeared. It was shocking. He was named a fugitive. A manhunt was on. And then the district attorney, Gil Garcetti, held a news conference to warn whoever may have become an accomplice in O.J. Simpson's run would be considered a felon.
We saw any number of police with their weapons drawn here, Connie.
Well, they have their man. They know where he's at.
And indeed, as has just been said, the police have their man. They know where he is. They have him not just cornered, but encircled, including vertical envelopment in the air. But the question is how to take him alive. If, as they believe, he's still in the back of that Ford Bronco, still unexplained was that scene that looked like it might have been the arrest of O.J. Simpson earlier, and now, well, I hesitate to say clearly was not, but I think we can say it was not who that person was, shaking his finger beside the Ford Bronco, unknown. Standard police procedure here would be to hold, not to move, to let specialists in this kind of circumstance, which the FBI, the police, and various law enforcement agencies have, for one thing, to deal with hostage situations, but they are law enforcement officers who are very well trained, psychological training and others, to deal with just this kind of situation.
O.J. Simpson had been under the care of a psychiatrist all this week, and an internist as well. This is a man who is accused of murdering his wife and her friend, and under California law, Simpson, if convicted, could get the death penalty. The district attorney said today it would be determined later whether or not the prosecutors...
Someone movement at the side of the house there. The door opened to the house, just to the left. At least one figure and possibly 2 appeared and then went back into the doorway. Unexplained and for the moment inexplicable.
It is not known who is in O.J. Simpson's home at this time.
Let's pick up some of the local commentary from KCBS there.
AC who? AC Cowlings. We think AC Cowlings has gone inside the structure, and that would leave inside O.J. inside.
So the speculation on the scene is that what we saw earlier was Cowlings, who'd been driving the vehicle, this is all speculative, left the vehicle and may be inside the house. Leaving alone in the Bronco is the latest speculation from the scene we're picking up. Alone in the Bronco, possibly O.J. Simpson. This could go on for a very long time. The police themselves, here's another figure coming out of the house. Manuel Dieguez is on the scene. Someone walked just up to the Bronco. Manuel, what do you see there?
Well, Dan, what I can see here, we are kept at a pretty far distance right now from O.J. Simpson's Brentwood home. We can see the police cars surrounding the unit. Earlier we saw
open on the side of the
what
Bronco
appear to be camouflaged police units completely covered with plants and vines going into the house before Simpson's arrival, in preparation for his arrival.
Let's watch this scene very carefully.
I can't tell you
now.
about the periphery of the home. There are dozens and dozens of photographers and reporters and curious neighbors standing behind a police barricade here, probably about 200 feet from the home.
Manuel, we could see on the side the driver's door opening. I don't know where your vantage point is, but the driver's door is now opened.
And someone came from the direction of the house of the door and walked over to the Bronco. This is a strange circumstance to say the least. The door of the Bronco now open. Someone dressed in dark clothing walked from the house to the side of the Bronco. Whether this is some negotiation with O.J. Simpson presents itself as a question now. There's so many questions about this scene as the Los Angeles police, having encircled O.J. Simpson, charged with 2 particularly brutal stabbing murders on Sunday night. The effort is being made not just to take him, but to take him alive.
We have no idea of who is in O.J. Simpson's home and who has been there, but there has been a steady stream of friends. There's someone exiting or standing there that...
What's happening? What's the status?
What's happened, we can see, is the person or persons who came out of the house in dark clothing went up to the car, one of whom certainly is the policeman. Now the other one is going back to the car.
What are they doing?
No one knows what is happening.
Looks like they may have gone inside the vehicle or have approached it. Stand by one. Murray, what's happening?
Mind you, there are all kinds of possibilities here. Someone, as they just drove up, seemed to come out of the car, white T-shirt, wave his finger, and was taken inside the house by police. At that time, that person had the same build as O.J. Simpson. No one could say that it was he. Since then, the belief has run strong that perhaps O.J. Simpson is still in the car, but we have this extraordinary circumstance of someone who may or may not be a policeman has gone out to the Ford Bronco, is inside the Ford Bronco. And what's happening inside that Bronco, we do not know. Here's a hand to wave forward.
Waving someone to come in, to come towards the car.
We've said before, could be a negotiating situation, but no one knows. The person in the dark uniform who was inside the Bronco has waved, and waved somewhat frantically for someone else to come on. He's now pointing to someone and waving him, in effect, come on.
It is a little after 8 p.m. in Los Angeles. Night is beginning to fall here. We're losing daylight. It might be difficult to see. That's why you have somewhat of a grainy picture, because the camera is trying to get in as close as possible.
Police have the Bronco completely surrounded. They still have their weapons drawn, yet at least one person has gone inside the Bronco and come out.
There were more than a dozen police cars following the Ford Bronco, and because this is his home, the driveway only accommodates this one police car, but we can guarantee you that there are squad cars all around the area.
John Blackstone, if you're still with us at our CBS News Los Angeles Bureau, are you hearing anything from the police scanners? Is there any information coming from any other direction about what's happening here in the courtyard of O.J. Simpson's home?
The best that we're able to figure out, not absolutely certain of this, but it seems to be that indeed it was Al Cowlings who came out of the car, has been going between the car and the house, waving people back. There is, of course, as well, there's a cellular telephone we know in that vehicle. That's how they track the vehicle. That does leave open a possibility of negotiations that way somehow as well. It doesn't have to be this sort of a standoff, of course. But watching this, listening here, no, it remains a rather confused situation. It does seem, indeed, though, that O.J. Simpson remains inside the vehicle. Looking at this, I can't help but think back to yesterday, the last time any of us saw O.J., anyone saw O.J., at the funeral for his former wife. The scene of O.J. at that time, the way we remember him then, looking like the person we always knew, with his children at his side, his 2 young children gripping their hands. This is the next time we see him, now in a police standoff in the front of his home.
John, earlier I believe we were told that his children were with the grandparents. Is that your belief?
Yes. Earlier today there was a good deal of activity at the murder scene at the condominium of O.J. Simpson's ex-wife.
John, excuse me one moment. We can see now in the high shot someone dressed in dark clothing is right at the back of the Ford Bronco. You can see them go right up to the back of the Bronco there for a moment.
trying to see here again exactly what we can see.
Yeah, Dan, I don't know if that may have been the, I think it might have been the tire that's in the back. It's very difficult to see. Go ahead.
It's beginning to get
dark.
It's beginning to get dark here now, as you can see. And these cameras have been, because of the obvious danger, the camera from this angle has been put back quite some distance, a greater distance than cameras previously were around the house, which is one reason there's some difficulty. We're saying about the children. Yes, our belief is now that the belongings of the children were packed up today at the condominium, the townhouse where the murders took place, and that the children are now off with their grandparents.
O.J. Simpson had said in a note to the public, it was addressed to whom it may concern, and a friend of his read it at a news conference, and he said, "My last wish, please, please, please leave my children in peace."
The person in dark clothing approaches the Ford Bronco again and enters the Bronco. This is at least the second and I believe the third time that person, or at least a person dressed in dark clothing, has gone to the Bronco and now emerges again.
John Blackstone, you were going to say something?
I was going to say that we can see that a person there once again moving toward the car. We saw that at the door. Again, it would seem that some negotiations are going on here. The police waiting behind the vehicle, as you can say. I was going to say that in that note as well, where O.J. Simpson begged people to leave his children alone, that he said he seemed to be blaming the news media for this. He of course, said that he was innocent, that he wasn't responsible for these murders, and he blamed much of what was published in the media for creating the difficulties that he's in now.
Well, John, this reminds us to say that amid all the shocks and surprises and all the questions involved, including what exactly is going on at the moment, we should not and cannot ignore that this is, above all, a very sad story. A young mother was killed, her children left behind, her friend's life cut short. That is at the very core of all of this, and O.J. Simpson charged with a double murder, and until a few moments ago, in fact, well, in reality, even now, still a fugitive from justice, as we watch what is believed to be a negotiation with O.J. Simpson in the back of the Bronco.
And Dan,
we do have some
O.J. Simpson. O.J. Simpson actually has been married twice. He has children from his first marriage. He was married to Marguerite Whitley, and his oldest daughter is 25 years old, Arnell. He has a 23-year-old son, Jason, from the first marriage, 2 children from the first marriage. The second marriage to Nicole Simpson bore a girl, Sydney, 9 years old, and Justin, 6. Those are the 2 children that you saw at the funeral. In addition, during his first marriage, he had a son who died at 23 months in a drowning. O.J. Simpson, as all of you know, was a Heisman Trophy winner, played for the Buffalo Bills and for the San Francisco 49ers. He became a sports commentator for ABC Sports and NBC Sports, and he was an actor in a couple of movies, The Towering Inferno and Naked Gun, and Naked Gun 2.
Connie, one can only guess what was in his mind, but perhaps O.J. Simpson was trying to do what he once did better than anyone else, to run, and by running, to make his dreams come true. Dreams of this never happened, none of this was really ever happening. I also want to note that O.J. Simpson, in what was purported to be that letter from him, read at a news conference earlier, denied being guilty of the murders of which he's charged.
He said in the letter as well, he said, "I can't go on. No matter what the outcome, people will look and point." He said, "I had a good life. My mama taught me to be good to others. Why is this happening?" He said he sent love to all his friends. He said that he still loved his wife, his ex-wife, Nicole. He always had and always will. He said that they had actually come to an understanding. It was tough splitting up for a second time. He said in the future we'd be friends. We were planning to be friends and more. He said Nicole and I had a great relationship. We had our ups and downs.
the shadows lengthen just outside O.J. Simpson's home as what apparently, and I underscore the word apparently, trying to pick up a little of that audio there, some sort of negotiation may be going on. But repeat, because it's important, we do not know what is going on or what has been going on for the last few minutes in this extraordinary scene. What sticks in my mind for the moment, Connie, is when this Ford Bronco, driven by Cowlings, with O.J. Simpson believed to be in the rear, eyewitnesses said he was there. There was that scene, the first thing we saw was a man in a white t-shirt, a rough build like O.J. Simpson, but possibly, perhaps even probably not him now, waving his finger in the direction of roughly the Bronco itself. Then the police hustled that person inside the house.
And that person hasn't emerged again.
Well, not that we know of, not dressed that way anyway. And what appears to have been happening is possibly some kind of negotiation. There have been now, I think, 4 trips by someone to the Ford Bronco, going inside the Bronco and talking inside the Bronco. John Blackstone, is the official police spokesman of the hour saying anything about what the situation is there?
No, there's no word from an official police spokesman other than that they're trying to move back the media from the area around the house right now. In fact, we're told from the scene that some members of the press have been taken into custody, handcuffed, taken away as they tried to approach this scene closer to get a closer look to figure out what's going on. I was thinking of earlier today when the police commander described what would happen. He said, when we find O.J. Simpson, we'll put him in handcuffs and we'll put him in a squad car. It's become a bit more complicated than that.
John, we joined the coverage of KCBS almost 2 hours ago. But was that police chase going on for some time?
The first word we had this afternoon, it was about 10 to 6 this afternoon Pacific time, when we heard that contact had been made by the CHP with the car carrying O.J. Simpson, that they'd traced a cellular phone call and in fact had managed to get a cellular phone call through to the car. They had some general idea where it was and tracked the car using the cell phone signal for some time in a general way from cell to cell. Finally isolated it on a freeway south of Los Angeles in Orange County, then began to follow that car north as it moved up through Orange County into Los Angeles, past Disneyland, past the airport, and on through the streets of Los Angeles back to O.J. Simpson's home.
John, yesterday, when O.J. Simpson attended the funeral of his ex-wife, I saw a report that said that Nicole Simpson's parents were still very supportive of O.J. Simpson, and it was quite extraordinary.
Yes, indeed, he was very much a part of the funeral service yesterday that we saw. Always there. Every time we saw O.J. Simpson at that funeral service yesterday, his children at his side, gripping their hands. He was very much a part of that service yesterday. And indeed, it's one of the things we wonder how it got to this point that he got away from the police, that he didn't turn himself in. It would seem that the police, like most other people, perhaps didn't want to believe this of O.J. Simpson, and believed that indeed if it came to a point that he was charged, that he would simply turn himself in. They couldn't believe that O.J. Simpson would do anything other.
That's absolutely true. I think the continuing phrase that I kept hearing just anywhere I've gone, it's please say it ain't so. This Ford Bronco, where O.J. Simpson presumably is still inside, is the same Ford Bronco that apparently a witness, a jogger, who claimed, this witness claims that he or she may have seen that car at the condominium where Nicole Simpson and her friend Ronald Goldman were killed.
Maybe worth underscoring the word may there, because I don't think a positive indication was ever made, Connie.
No, that's absolutely true.
Also, the Associated Press is reporting now what we have said a time or two was a possibility. The AP says that a man definitely got out from the driver's seat of the Bronco. Now that person that we saw earlier, much earlier in the white T-shirt, that would seem to point even heavier in the direction that Cowlings, who's supposed to have been driving, may have gotten out of the car. It may have been Cowlings who was wagging his finger, and then police came and got Cowlings and hustled him back inside. And just a further indication that all of this may mean that O.J. Simpson is still in that Ford Bronco.
That's right, because earlier our KCBS reporter said that he saw Al Cowlings driving the Ford Bronco and that O.J. Simpson was in the back. He even reported that he thought he could see O.J. Simpson with a gun to his head, threatening with that gun, and saying that he wanted to go to his mother's home. But in fact, he did not. He got off the freeway, came on Sunset Boulevard towards the beach, towards going west, and came right back to his home.
And the best probability, which is all we can deal at the moment, the best probability now is that O.J. Simpson is in the back of that Ford Bronco, and if he is there, and anyone, Connie, is asking himself, well, why don't the police simply move, it is the possibility that he would take his own life. One is reminded of the suicide note quality of that letter that allegedly was written by Simpson that was read earlier. One is thinking of his attorney saying that he was very depressed, and the attorney said that he thought that, and the doctors thought that Simpson was possibly suicidal. So, but the police want, and we keep coming back to this, it's not just to get O.J. Simpson, it's to get him alive, to face the charges against him. And there were models from literature of the past. One is reminded of Othello, who killed himself after killing his wife in a jealous rage. There was the hero Achilles, confronted with disgrace, who preferred to fall upon his own sword. And one got a sense that perhaps O.J. Simpson might have been thinking in those directions, because he spoke in that letter about not wanting people to be pointing at him and, in effect, laughing at him. So yes, this explains why the police, one of the reasons why they're acting so cautiously here and treating the situation in the way that they are.
And this morning, when his lawyer was explaining to him that he was going to have to turn himself in, he'd been charged with 2 counts of murder, he took some time and was allowed to take the time to make an amendment to his will. He did some work on his will.
And that's what's going to be criticized as time goes along, I think, Connie. In fact, it already has been by some, that it's very unusual for the police to allow a person charged in a double murder case this kind of time, this kind of latitude.
When he was, when O.J. Simpson was told by his lawyer that the police would be arresting him, his lawyer called the police and told them that the exact location of the home in the San Fernando Valley, not O.J. Simpson's home, the home of a friend, and that they should come immediately. They came 15 minutes later. They were intending to follow normal procedures and handcuff him and take him into Parker Center, which is the Los Angeles Police Department downtown. But in fact, they discovered when they went to look for O.J. Simpson in this rather large house, he was downstairs, supposedly downstairs with his good friend, a former football player, Al Cowlings. He wasn't there, and neither was Al Cowlings. The extraordinary thing is that the lawyers and 2 doctors, an internist and a psychiatrist, were all upstairs for a good long time and left the 2 alone. And at one point, Shapiro said, the lawyer said that O.J. Simpson was wailing. Night is falling here.
Well, and for the first time since this Ford Bronco, believed to be carrying O.J. Simpson, pulled into Simpson's home driveway, the policeman who was had positioned himself behind the police car where those blinking lights are with his gun drawn, has pulled back from that position for the first time since they pulled in there, raising the question of perhaps the police are pulling back a little to give the negotiators, if any, and the assumption has been that somebody is carrying on a negotiation in there, a little more room. Again, this would not be unusual police procedure under the circumstances. What generally happens in these situations, whether a hostage is involved or not, is that the police bring on their specialists. The specialists are, in fact, control the situation, and they recommend things, sometimes move closer, sometimes move back. No one knows why that policeman moved, but possibly would be significant because he stayed there for a very long time with his weapon drawn, and now he's pulled on further back. It's going to be increasingly difficult to see. We've gone from the last daylight of the afternoon to the twilight. Now we're in that gray period between twilight and absolute dark, but soon to be in the dark. And this scene where we can barely make out what's happening now, as it gets even darker, is going to be even more difficult to make out what is happening. The high shot might be a little clearer, but we'll simply have to see once they switch to the high shot here.
We have been on the air for about 2 hours. This is CBS News coverage of the O.J. Simpson story. If you're just joining us, as many as 2 hours ago, O.J. Simpson was on the Interstate 5 in Orange County, and he was riding in a Ford Bronco, which you see in the back there. You can see the tail, and you can see half of the Ford Bronco. He was riding with his friend Al Cowlings, who is a former football player. Cowlings was apparently driving, and supposedly they were heading for his mother's home because that's where he apparently told police that he wanted to go. But in fact, he came to his own home in Brentwood. The police squad car you see with the flashing lights followed right behind him, and there were more than a dozen of them, which we can't see at this point, but which no doubt are surrounding the house.
We've had some people asking questions, Connie, about is this the place where the killings took place? The answer is no. This is O.J. Simpson's home. The killings took place outside the condominium of his former wife.
That's right.
Now,
it's not far away.
Not far away, but this is where O.J. Simpson says he was when the killings took place, noting that in his note, which was read earlier this evening, Simpson said he was not guilty. He has not been convicted of anything. Simpson's alibi was that he was preparing to go to Chicago, that he was here at this home where this scene is unfolding, and a limousine had been called, or a car had been called, to take him to the airport. And he eventually got in that car and was taken to the airport and went to Chicago. Now, among the circumstantial evidence pieces that police put together was one, there were blood stains on the driveway, what were believed to be blood stains on the driveway of this home. There were blood stains in the Chicago hotel room where Simpson stayed briefly before coming back to Los Angeles. There were reports never completely confirmed of possibly a bloody glove having been found somewhere in Simpson's home. All of this was part of the circumstantial case that police were putting together. Now, there were so many leaks from the Los Angeles Police Department about alleged pieces of evidence that it's hard to carry on what case they had constructed after that.
Dan, this is that high shot that you were looking for before, and you're right, you can see a little more of the Ford Bronco. The
figures in the
car
driveway.
Door, and the driver's door is obviously open. The flashing lights are on. You can see the mansion. This is quite a large house, expensive. Brentwood is a very expensive area in Los Angeles.
Now, police said that they found, by the way, blood in this car, in this Bronco.
That was one of the reports.
Reportedly, supposedly, allegedly, 2 bloody gloves had been found. Where they were found, whether they were involved with the case, the details on those gloves, this is according to the Associated Press. Blood found in O.J. Simpson's driveway, blood in his car, blood in his Chicago hotel room. But no matter how much evidence authorities reportedly had against him, for a while today, as the Associated Press rightly points out, they did not have Simpson. They now have Simpson, almost, but he's not actually in custody at the moment. Now, reports earlier in the week, and we're going to review this, Connie, because I know you sort of looked and you said, well, 2 bloody gloves. I agree that will come as news to some people, but the Associated Press says too. Police sources leaking information had listed the following as, quote, evidence. I'm reminding you again that O.J. Simpson's side of the story has not been heard, and he is at this moment not convicted of a single thing. But the police said that they had a bloody glove found near a side entrance to Simpson's Brentwood home, that's the one we're looking at right now, that reportedly matched another glove found at the murder scene, says the AP. There were blood stains in Simpson's white Ford Bronco, this car that police now have encircled. Rust-colored spots in Simpson's driveway that were determined to be blood. A bloody ski mask, allegedly, reportedly, and supposedly, and according to the Associated Press, was found in Simpson's home. The vehicle, resembling Simpson's, spotted by a jogger, parked on the late Mrs. Simpson's, divorced Mrs. Simpson's, street the night she was slain. And then there was the report from a limousine driver that Simpson wasn't at home Sunday night when the driver first arrived. The driver came earlier than scheduled, as of course limousine car drivers usually try to do. And that, according to the police sources, contradicted Simpson's alibi that he was at home at the time of the slayings. All of this part of the circumstantial case that police say that they had pieced together. What else they had, we do not know. There have been all kinds of reports and rumors that they had a whole lot more, but none, I underscore the word, none of those were ever confirmed, and Simpson in his last communication said flatly that he had not done it, that he wasn't guilty.
That's right. There had been a report that blood that matched Simpson's was found at the scene of the crime, but it was a very common blood type, and it was said that DNA tests would be, this was a Los Angeles Times report, that DNA tests would be conducted, and that would take quite some time, perhaps weeks or even months, to determine the results of that test.
We have Frank Boltz, who is the former head of the New York Police Department hostage program, one of the best-known hostage negotiators in the country, on the telephone at the moment. Now, we do not have here a hostage situation. What we believe we have is O.J. Simpson in the back of the car. We're calling on the phone, but you have something you want to pass along?
Exactly. Bob Kerr of KCBS, which is our owned and operated station in Los Angeles, is a reporter that we've been listening to during our coverage these past 2 hours. He reports that the LAPD, Los Angeles Police Department, has called in the SWAT team and a hostage negotiator.
All right, with that information now, let's speak on the phone live with Frank Boltz, former head of the New York City Police Department hostage program. Mr. Boltz, thanks for being with us tonight. What will negotiators do first to diffuse this situation? What would the book say to them are among the first things they should do?
Well, they're going to try to listen to him. He's obviously in a real crisis, as evidenced by the letter that he had written indicating that he felt that the media had done a job on him before he had been arrested or charged or anything else. And here's a person who's made his living on the media, and he felt betrayed, perhaps, under those circumstances.
So the first thing they will try to do is listen to him, you say, Mr.
That's correct. Get him over that crisis.
And at that point, do the police want to have other police officers very near the Ford Bronco, or do they want them to back away?
Well, they have backed away. They have to be there. He knows that they're there, because in a situation like this, he would expect them to be there. The key is to be in a non-threatening situation, which is what they're doing. They're staying far enough back. As the fellow who was driving the car has gone back and forth into the house, the police are there, and they're standing there very friendly, their arms folded. They're in a non-threatening situation. And so that's basically, they've contained him, locked him in to the smallest area practicable.
Now, do I understand that you believe, Mr. Boltz, or do you know that someone well known to O.J. Simpson, such as his friend Cowlings, is the person who's been going back and forth between the house and the Bronco?
That's what it appears to be. I've been watching this since it went down, and he was the first person out of that car, out of the driver's part of the car, and he's been going back and forth into the house, and we could see him talking to uniformed police officers.
Now, what would be the next thing they would do? You say they're going to talk to him. They're going to try to place him in as non-threatening a situation as possible.
They have that. They have that discipline right now.
And what would be the next thing they would try to do?
Again, they're going to try to ventilate him. They're going to let him tell his part of the story, and see if they can work out some way that he will not have to actually bring him to an end like this. One of the problems that we do have is in a situation like this, whereas initially when he wrote that letter, he may have been all hyped up his own life. but now because time has gone by, there's very good possibility that the resolve to die may have diminished, and that's what we're hoping for. But however, what we have to do is get him over any embarrassment that he may have. He may feel that he's done, because there are so many people out there, that there is so much media coverage, he's going to have to do something. And unfortunately, if he doesn't have the wherewithal to do it himself, he may create a situation where, by threatening an innocent third party, the police officers may have to use deadly force against him, and we call that suicide by police, and I hope that does not happen.
I see. Mr. Bowles, this is Connie Chung.
Yes.
I caution you to, regarding this individual who has come in and out of the home. In the beginning, there was a man with a white T-shirt who had police officers on each side of him, and he went into the house.
Well, that man, that fellow with the white T-shirt, we saw him run from the street, follow the car right in, and come right up to the car, and two police officers grabbed him and pulled him away, and an arm came out of the car waving that man out of the way.
Well, this is something new.
Yeah, exactly. We did not see that.
Yeah, I've been watching this since the inception. Yeah.
I see. So once again...
And so the man in the black shirt appears to be the friend, Cowlings, who has been going back and forth.
And did you see him, the one in the black shirt, leave the Bronco?
Yes.
And go into the home? And he's the one who has gone in and out of the Bronco in the home?
That's correct. Talking to uniformed police officers at the doorway.
Now, this could be very confusing, so let's hold for a moment, particularly for those people who have not been with us.